Welcome back, everybody, to episode 5 of the What's He On About podcast. What an episode it is today. Topic number 1, Australia get pummeled by India. We're going to have a little review of that first test match. Suryavanshi, the 13-year-old IPL player, has been picked over the 42-year-old Jimmy Anderson. We're going to have a little dive into that one. And we're going to preview to the England Test series against New Zealand. What a series that's going to be. We're going to be talking about that one as Bethel makes his debut in the first Test match. And finally, stick out for moment of the week, as it is one of the best scorecards I've ever seen in my life. And what a tough day for the Ivory Coast. So that's all to come. So grab yourself a lovely beverage and a beautiful little snack and sit somewhere nice and comfy as you ask yourself, what is he on about? Australia, Australia, Australia. Now, I've never seen them ever roll over like that. First test at the Optus Stadium. How good is that to watch, eh? Australia get rolled over. They're just taking an absolute pummeling. It's their second biggest loss by runs at home in the last 40 years, and their second biggest loss by runs ever against India. Ever. If only that was England, eh? Well, it could be this winter to come. I tell you, it could be this winter. England, that's what it looks like. Now, in terms of India, how did they get on? Kohli's back in the runs. I don't know if I'm happy about it, but if it's against Australia, I'll take it every day of the week. Jaiswal looks a proper player, doesn't he? 161, it's his fourth 100 for India, and it's actually his lowest score past 100 that he's hit so far. So he's had 161, which he hit the other day. He's had 170 odd, and he scored two double hundreds. So every time he's got to 100 for India, he has seriously kicked on, and he's averaged 58 in his first 15 games. Jasprit Bumrah looks absolutely lethal. That hyper-extending front arm, which means he's releasing the ball piles of centimeters further ahead than everyone else who's bowling with a straight arm. It just looks unbelievable. Every single time he's bowling, it looks like there's going to be a wicket, and it's just so threatening. The Aussies would have been absolutely petrified. Jasprit Bumrah, he's got the best average in tests. Okay, he's got the best bowling average for bowlers who've got more than 150 wickets since 1914. He's averaging 20.16 with the ball. Do you reckon you could name me that one person who's got a better average and he's bowled before 1914? I'll be very impressed if you can get it. He averaged 16 in the pre-World War One years. Sydney Barnes for England. He got 189 wickets at 16 average. And yeah, Bumrah's got that to be. I don't know if he ever will, but that average of 20.16 is quite astonishing. And as I said, the Aussies were petrified. Pat Cummins thought he'd come out and be the night watchman late on day 3. He thought he'd be the leader. I'm going to show you that you can stand out for this. I'm going to be a strong defence and I'm going to protect my players. People later, Pat Cummins gets out. Great show of leadership from him. And yeah, do that more often. I reckon do that more often. And unfortunately, he couldn't protect little old Marnus. Marnus Labuschagne. People are thinking, is it time for him to go? Well, sir, well, I'll tell you. At 12 for 2, late on day 3, Marnus Labuschagne comes out to the crease. He's got a few overs left to bat. And Labuschagne starts giving chat to Mohammad Siraj, who's bowling very well. And you're looking at Labuschagne and I'm thinking, is this the right time for this kind of chat? He's pulled out a couple of big no runs. He's done a couple of big flare leaves. Mohamed Siraj has a couple of words with him. Labuschagne, a few balls later, leaves one on middle stump, hits him on the pad, and he falls over. India go up in uproar, and it's given out. Labuschagne reviews it, and lo and behold, it's crashing into middle stump. So people are calling for Marcus Harris to come back in, open up alongside Khawaja, with McSweeney moving down to number three. But I think Australia will stick out with Labuschagne. I think that he's got too many runs in the past, and I think that Labuschagne, they're going to stick with him, and they're going to stick with this middle order because it's just too good. Moving on to the IPL, a 13-year-old gets picked up by Rajasthan Royals. Who is he? Well, Suryavanshi. He's been picked up for £105,000. That's a lot of money for a 13-year-old as well. Now, I'd never heard of him. I've posted a TikTok on him, and go and check out the TikTok if you haven't already. But he's played for India under 19s. He's 13. And there's a little more to the story. He got a 58 ball 100. And if that wasn't enough, it was in a test match. And it's the second fastest ever by an Indian under 19 in tests. And it's actually the second fastest ever, just behind Moeen Ali at under 19 level. So have a think about that one. Moeen Ali, he went on to big things. Could Suryavanshi do more, as he is only 13? Turns out he's also scored a triple hundred at the domestic under 19 level. So yeah, he's clearly a pretty strong player. And in one of the comments of my TikTok, someone posted saying they've actually bowled at him. And apparently, according to this unknown figure, Suryavanshi is a hacker, doesn't play very nice shots. Well, unknown person, I think you've just been carted around the park by a 13-year-old, and I think you're just lying that he's a hacker. So, anyway, that's the news from the comments. Apparently, they're all bowling at him, and apparently they're just getting hit all over the park. So, it'll be interesting to see how Suryavanshi gets on for the Rajasthan Royals. Let's take a look forward to the England-New Zealand Test match. Let's have a preview. And we're going to start with New Zealand because it's undoubtedly the fact that they are out and out favourites. New Zealand just coming off the back of an away whitewash in India. One of the most historic Test victories of all time. They won 3-0 over in India, with the fast bowlers taking piles of wickets and Will Young being the player of the series with the batting at number three. Now, what's the first thing New Zealand are going to do? Well, it looks like they're going to drop Will Young after their biggest series win ever. It looks like Kane Williamson's going to just nab that place back. Cheers, Will Young, for keeping my seat nice and warm, but I'll have it back now. So, Williamson strolls back in, and Will Young looks like he's going to be sitting with a bib on, carrying out the drinks. What more can you do, eh? What more can you do? The New Zealand bowlers look a strong lineup. Matt Henry's going to be scary for the England batsman. He's going to bowl that hard length with a lot of sideways movement early doors. And Matt Henry's going to be a handful. He is going to be an absolute handful. Talking of handfuls, Tim Southee. Tim Southee's in his last series before he retires at the end of this Test series. And he's on 385 Test wickets. So he only needs 15 more to reach that milestone. And what a bowler he's been. And I think he still is. Tim Southee's going to cause problems for England, but it'll be interesting to see if they go after him or they play a little bit more negatively. Knowing Bazball, they're going to go all out for Southee. And moving on to Nathan Smith, who's looks like he's going to be debuting for New Zealand as the Test match begins on Wednesday. And it's undoubtable that England are going to go after him. Nathan Smith is a young, new bowler, and England are going to seriously target him. And Hagley Oval is apparently a boundary scoring ground, quite small and a fast outfield. And poor old Nathan Smith's going to have he's going to have a lot of problems keeping the likes of Duckett at bay and Harry Brook, who just love scoring boundaries. But that's the England bowling lineup, and not the England, the New Zealand bowling lineup. And it looks strong in general with batters as well. If you're going to be player of the series like Will Young was and then not keep your place, it must be a strong lineup. So England are worried it's going to be a great test series. Now, the England story, the headline, Jacob Bethel. Jacob Bethel makes his debut. He showed great signs in the white ball series, and he is the first person since 1978 to be picked for England with no first class hundreds. Have a little think who that might be. Very big player in 1978 for England. Went on to big things. He's a big guy. It's Mike Gatting. Mike Gatting was the last man to get picked for England with no first class hundreds. And just diving into Bethel's stats, he's played 20 matches, no hundreds, of course, at an average of 25. So it's a real Bazball pick, this one. Bethel coming in to make a test debut when arguably there's a few number threes who've been working very hard at county championship level. But that's the new way. That's how we're playing, and hopefully we can get some victories. And I know in Bazball, Bethel could go out and get 100. You know, Gus Atkinson got picked earlier this year. He got a seventh on debut and went on to get 100. You know, just take that in for a minute. Hell of a selection that for Bazball. I think so. It looks like Pope's going to be moving down to number six position. Bethel's going to come in at three. Pope down to six. Stokes in at seven. Stokes going to have a whale of a time at seven, without a doubt. And I think Pope needs this. Pope's going to be at six. He's enjoyed batting at six for Surrey. His only other hundreds, his 300s, he's scored 400s, three of which have come at three, and the final one has come at number six. So Pope's going to enjoy. He's had a bit of pressure. He's been batting at three, big position. He's been captaining England of late. And it's going to be nice for a little pressure release. He's going to be batting at six, where he's enjoyed batting. Bit less pressure. Let's see if he does well. I hope he does, but he does have the glove, so that'll be an interesting one to see unfold. But yeah, Stokes at seven, he looks dangerous. He's just going to come and play the situation, do what he's going to do what he needs to do for the team, and Stokes is going to be dangerous. Just looking at this tail after Stokes, number eight comes in Chris Wokes. He's obviously scored 100 for England. Gus Atkinson, he's also scored 100 for England. And Bryden Carse. I didn't think much of him. Turns out he averages 31 and he scored two first class hundreds. Sorry, that's averaging 31 at first class level. So he's a good player. And finally, in this preview, we're going to move on to the location of the first test, the Hagley Oval. As we said, it's a boundary scoring ground, and it's going to be a real grassy green top wicket. It's going to be good for the bowlers. So if you're going to win the toss, it looks like a bowl first, and the pitch is just going to get better and better and better. England are going to love playing at this ground. It's going to be fast. It's going to be lots of runs, and hopefully they just don't collapse. And hopefully we can get some big partnerships, and the England lads can seriously start teeing off. So it's going to be a three-match series. It's going to be seriously tight. My prediction for it, 2-1 England. I think there's going to be some great games. It's going to go down to day five. I reckon it's going to be 1-1 going into the final test. But I think England have just got that winning ability. I mean, New Zealand have gone to India and won 3-0, so they've got winning ability as well. But I think England will put them under pressure. I don't think India did that enough. And I think New Zealand are going to struggle to cope with a bit of the pressure that England are going to put on them. So I think it's going to be 2-1 with not much evidence behind it other than the fact I want England to win. But it's going to be a terrific series with hundreds and sixes and boundaries and everything. Final prediction, Jacob Bethel to score 100. He's got the swagger. He's going to do it. He's going to fit into this team beautifully. Now, finally, moment of the week. We're going to end it off with one of the best scorecards I have ever seen. In an international T20 World Cup qualifier, there was a game between Nigeria and Ivory Coast, and it was bedlam. Nigeria came out and posted a lovely score of 271 for four. Yep, 271. The opener retired on 112, and there was a couple of 50s in there off very few deliveries. However, one of the standout performers was wides. Ivory Coast managed to tot up 20 wides, making extras a total of 23, really providing a good help to the Nigerian score. So, Ivory Coast had a big task on their hands, but I reckon they could do it. They had 271 to chase. They ended up scoring a total of 7. Ivory Coast were bowled out for 7 runs. 7 players scored 0, and the opener top scored on 4. So a great show and response by Ivory Coast, totting up 7 runs all out. Pick of the bowlers for Nigeria was Prosper Asini, who bowled 1.3 overs, 3 wickets for no runs. Great figures from Asini. And that's Nigeria's dominant 264-run win over Ivory Coast. And that's the content we bring you on this channel. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of the What's He On About podcast. We're going to be reviewing the test matches from England and New Zealand and keeping tabs on Australia's pummeling against India. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed your snack as well. And maybe as you were listening, the question was answered of what was he on about? Cheers.